Hello there, everybody. Welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. If you're a subscriber, I'm so glad to have you here. I am taping this early Sunday morning, April 6th. I'm getting to a point now where I say when I'm taping because things just develop so quickly, you all. So I think it helps give you perspective on the readings and where we are when I do that. If you are new to the channel, my name is Afefe. I'm touched by tarot and beyond. And I'm also a former newspaper journalist. So my readings tend to be pretty, I try to stay grounded, keep it real, try to do my homework before I go to spirit and do readings for you all to see, for all of us to see, if we can get more context into what the heck is going on now, right? Because it changes moment by moment. Fist pump and everything else. Millions of people, we understand, turned out across this nation. And even globally, we had protests, the hands-off protests. Like many of you, I've seen the video clips and images, and wow, we knew it was going to be big. We could feel that shift. It's just time, more and more people, and especially with what's happening in the markets and the tariffs, in addition to everything else that's happening, right? We knew it was going to be big, but it was big. That said, I've had a number of people email me or leave comments about martial law and whether FDT, I call him FDT, F, fake fraud felon F, DT, so you get it, whether or not FDT is planning to, especially in the wake of these massive turnouts for the protests, for the hands-off protests, if martial law is something that he will actually resort to that. So we're going to take a look at that. I also want to take a look at how long, at this point, energetically, how long Spirit will give us an indication of how long the tariffs might last. Because this is beyond, right? Just everything from the wealthy, top-notch economists, everybody across the board is like, what the hell are you doing? And then on the heels of that, we have, quote unquote, reputable sources who, of course, cannot risk being identified, close to FDT, saying his response at the end of last week as he prepared to go to Florida and play golf with the Saudis, his response to all of this was, and the market's tanking, was, I don't give a F. I don't give a F. It tracks, right? Whoever that source was, anonymous or not, it's not like we have a hard time believing that he said that. It tracks, it shows, you set the world on fire, you set your country on fire, and then you go and you play golf and figure out some more ways to make some more money with the Saudis. So for entertainment purposes, only got to say it. So going to take a look at the tariffs and see, will something shift? Will there be some sufficient feedback for FDT to get to change his position? Of course, we're hearing from people like Peter Navarro and others who are saying nope, and Lutnick saying he's firm, it's not going to shift, it is what it is. But we're going to take a look at that. Also, in relation to his advisors, I'm getting that, and we're hearing some things in the news, that the cabinet might start to crack. We remember how crazy his cabinet was in the last administration, that revolving door situation. And from what we understand, that's one of the reasons why he's been so loyal to Mike Waltz in the wake of the Signalgate scandal, was because he didn't want to begin that revolving door thing again and then risk that ridicule, right? Always got to be right, no matter what. How wrong you are, you still got to be right. So, and we also understand Laura Loomer, wow, okay, didn't see that on my bingo card. How about y'all, right? But what's interesting was getting a lot of female energy in my readings on him lately, and I was trying to identify, is it Susie Wiles? Is it some other, foreign, shine bomb out of Mexico? Trying to figure out who's this woman, Ivanka, who... And I'm realizing now that part of that energy that Spirit was giving us was Laura Loomer. Who knew? All right. But apparently she, in her National Security Council firings that resulted from that, she was targeting Waltz. And FDT wouldn't go for it. FDT was like, no, you got to come up with some other names. I'm not prepared to do that at this time. And we understand that she did that with Walz in the room to his face. Woo, she's a piece of work. She's really a piece of work. So let's take a look at the cabinet. Scott Bessent, word on the street is, Treasury Secretary, is that he's looking for a way out. He, of all the cabinet picks, apparently within the billionaire class, right? But the Wall Street types, that he was actually pretty well respected and highly regarded. He made his fortune, I think, in the markets, right? And so he's like, I am really looking stupid right now. And so the word is he's eyeing the exits and trying to figure out how he can get the heck out of there. We're also hearing that again in the cabinet close-ups and advisors. Peter Navarro and Muskrat are apparently boom, boom, boom. That's the next war that's taking place. Muskrat has apparently said, Navarro is a nobody, ain't never created SHIT, blah, blah, blah. And Navarro is like this with FDT. So Elon's already skating on thin ice, money or no money. Gonna see what that's headed. And Marco Rubio being set up, I think, for the downward slide in regards to Russia and Putin and the Russia-Ukraine war. Because remember, FDT did all this, I'm going to end it on day one. Hello. Not happening, Putin is like, whatever. So he's putting Rubio more in the position of being the primary face of advancing those negotiations and is right. Have you seen pictures of Rubio lately? I mean, talk about a ghost of a self. I'm almost, like zombie-ish, almost. Like he's not there. Again, for entertainment purposes only, but woo, sell your soul and become an empty shell, why don't you? All right. And finally, want to wrap up the reading with GOP dissent. Will all of this lead to GOP dissent? And especially in regards to the tariffs and fighting back and getting that pulled back, forcing his hand to pull that back. All right, ready to go in, you all. Thanks for bearing with me for all of that. Lots to cover. Let's look at martial law. Somebody's going to ask me for my readers. I will be reading today from the Baroque Tarot. Okay? Baroque by Lamucci. All right, let's go in. Spirit. In the wake of the incredible hands-off protests that took place Saturday, April 5th, will FDT and his administration, higher-ups in his administration, will they attempt or enact martial law to stop the protests? Will we see an enactment of martial law? Temperance, it is definitely under consideration. They're trying to justify it because, again, free speech, First Amendment rights of free speech, freedom of assembly. They were peaceful protests. You didn't, there was no violence, there was no vandalism, we didn't hear any, there was none of that to justify some sort of national emergency. That said, it shows that they're trying to figure out, alchemy. What ingredients can we put together to justify enacting it? Spirit, will we see martial law? Five of Pentacles, they're going to have a hard time. They're going to have a hard time getting it carried out, even if the sentiment in the top brass in the cabinet and FDT is to try and get it going. This is a struggle. This is a struggle. There has been some indication, Queen of Swords, that might be Bondi or Gnome. Another piece of work. There's some sort of... Because again, at this point, what FDT is doing, what I'm getting from Spirit, you all, what FDT FDT is doing is when he enacts these things, he wants a face in front of it so that when it goes south, right? And when it all goes to hell, that he has someone to blame. It's never going to be, I'm the person, yes, I accept responsibility. I am the person, who you can look to for why this has happened. Now, we have the Nine of Cups. And the Six of Cups. This is him, FDT, having a little hissy fit of sorts in his I don't give a F mode right now. But looking to the past, this is a review of how martial law may have been enacted in the past, what the laws were. I think that's where we saw perhaps Bondi and Nome or whomever, they've got to come up with, they got to cook the books, right? Cook the legal arguments for why they could do that. So that's what that Six of Cups is to me. It's saying, again, all of this is, enacting the Aliens Act of 1783 or whenever it was, or 1738, whenever. But they're looking at these really old arcane laws because who's done any of this, in modern history, in recent history? Nobody. It's unbelievable. But that's what they're doing. There's an examination of that, and then we have the Tower. I will say this. If he decides to go that route to try and silence the voices of the people who clearly are ready to stand up and be heard. Sorry, I got an eyelash. I think this is military pushback as well. This is military pushback. In other words, they will not, and there's the Fool. Exactly. Too big a risk. And there will be something that there would be some response from within, whether it is within the military itself, within the National Guard, within the people who would be responsible for carrying those orders out. Look at that. Look at that energy between the Tower, total and complete disruption, and the Fool, which says, we're gonna, this is something so entirely off the charts and so new and so risky even, because this carries Uranus energy, that we're not doing it. And how we can come up with disobeying and not doing it, that's Fool energy as well. All right, so you all, and I was also, a lot of you have been giving me this date of April 20th that the martial law would be enacted. I don't know where that came from or what that was about. Maybe some of you can share that in the comments if you know what 420 was about and why 420 for this. But I'm going to look at that date. I do have the Lovers. That's a decision. And I also think of FDT when I see the Lovers because he's a Gemini. A decision by then. And we have the Ten of Pentacles. There is some tie-in to around that time frame, you all. I don't understand it. I'm not going to fake it and pretend that with you all. But there is some tie-in to that. And I also feel like perhaps if, in fact, he's going to make that kind of move, then he will make that kind of move somewhere by that time, somewhere around that time. But again, yeah, and there's the Wheel of Fortune. Thank you, Spirit, for that confirmation. But again, the karmic blowback of that, like to actually amp things up for everything that's being done to destroy democracy, to destroy people's lives, to put people on the precipice of really going under, financially, otherwise, their businesses, everything on the line. The Wheel of Fortune is like, look, the karmic, the wheels of justice and karma will begin to turn so much faster, so much faster. And I know a lot of you, and confirmation, the Empress, the care of people, the absolute no holds barred demonstration of hatred toward the very people that you're supposed to serve and protect. The Empress is about nurturing, self-care, the divine feminine. So to do that, think about the Tower in relation to the Empress. I will tell you, I've pulled a sufficient number of major arcana to feel like this is a real situation. We started out with Temperance, we got the Lovers, we got the Fool, we got the Tower, we got the Wheel of Fortune, and we got the Empress. For those of you not familiar with tarot, at least for me and my readings, and a lot of other readers tend to believe, when you pull a lot of major arcana, this is spirit going, listen to me, this is a big situation happening, so pay attention, right? And I did not pull a whole heck of a lot of cards, you all, and of those we got a number of major arcana. But again, should he do that? Talk about a last straw situation. Talk about a last straw situation? Yeah. All right. Okay. Tariffs. Let's move on. I'm actually going to go, I was led to pull, I've got this timing oracle deck. I'm going to look at that first. Because him and his, I don't give a F about the markets, about what people are saying. I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. He's got this Lutnick in one ear and Navarro in the other, making absolutely no sense, and don't care. When Lutnick came out, I think it was Lutnick came out and said, well, if my grandmother, 94-year-old, was it mother or something, mother-in-law, whatever, if her Social Security check doesn't come, no big deal. She'll get it next month or the month. Like, so out of touch. Oh, all right. What just jumped? You have the power to create the timing by taking action. Whoa. So going back to the protests yesterday, the hands off, that shifted something, you all. That genuinely, that like millions. This wasn't just, and in the red states, right? Red states, red counties, deep red states, deep red counties. Folks showed up everywhere. At June, I know that feels like a whole, God only knows what could happen between now and June. This is April, right? But, thank you, Spirit. Both in my readings and in many other readers on the channel, June has been repeatedly coming up around FDT as some sort of pivotal time. And I know we're tired of hearing that. We've been looking forward to some sort of pivotal time for so long, for, something really, really definitive to happen. But slowly but surely, we do see things happening and in Spirit's divine timing. But we have the power, take action. And there is something by June where we will see a shift in what is happening with the tariffs, either because his hand is forced, because of the reciprocal tariffs. Dissent had the nerve to come out and tell other countries, well, this is what we're about to do to you, but don't you try to do it back to us. That's a no-no. Like other countries, Europe, and they're like, are you, what did he just say? What? Right? So, all of this money, yeah, some of them are making money off of this. That was the whole plan, right? Let the rich get richer. He's been posting on Truth Social in all caps as usual. Wow, what a time to get rich. While people are losing their jobs and losing their 401k money and all of it. So yeah, June, you all. I'm gonna keep an eye on it. We're gonna talk more about it. Okay, want to move on now to the cabinet cracking. Or the cabinet starting to crumble, right? He wanted to avoid what happened in his last administration with that revolving door, but it is looking more and more, want to take like that ain't gonna happen. Can't happen. Like, come on. It's a false house of cards. And it's always been a matter of timing. But I want to take a look at three things in particular. Scott Bessent, is he gonna wind up out either because he decides to leave or is put out? This Navarro Muskrat situation, we've already heard Muskrat, and for many reasons Muskrat is going to start to get slowly sidelined, or perhaps speed up that timeline. But Peter Navarro and then Marco Rubio, really interesting to watch his descent into absolute an aberration of himself. Like, not that he was ever likable, but an absolute aberration of himself. All right, we have the Three of Wands. Oh, interesting, because we're looking at three people. So we've got the Three of Wands. I see that as Besant, Navarro, and Marco Rubio. Are those cabinet members at risk? I don't know if Navarro is actually a part of his cabinet or just a senior advisor. Somebody will tell me in the chat. But certainly Besant as Treasury Secretary and Rubio as Secretary of State, they are. So first, Scott Besant. Spirit of Scott Besant on the way out. Six of Swords. He is looking for a way out, you all. You know, and you can't feel sorry for any of these people. He had to know what he was getting into. But they were so drunk on the promise of power. He didn't see this happening. Believe it or not, as implausible as it is, this was not what Scott Besant thought his position was going to look like. And the Eight of Pentacles, he's going to stick it out for a while to try and continue to argue for why long term. Maybe that's again why we saw that June timing. Hang in there for a little bit. Don't panic. The markets will rebound. Blah blah blah. He's a Wall Street. He plays the markets. That's how he made his money. So part of him is just gonna hammer in, but he is also. This is a card of a master craftsperson. So going back to Besant's sense of his reputation, going down the tubes. And he also realizes after he's only in his early 60s, I think, once old boy FDT is up out of here, ostensibly he would still have, a number of years in front of him to do what he does. Ace of Wands. If you've been with me before, when I get my aces, Spirit is giving me that thumbs up, like I'm on the right track with what I'm feeling, what I'm channeling. So yeah. His primary concern, Besant, is looking for a way out. He is not being targeted to get pushed out at this time by FDT or others, but he is looking for his own exit. And how? Because he does genuinely feel that the career that he's built, the respectability that he's had in the financial community is completely being wiped out at this time. So he wants to get out. Now, Peter Navarro, he ain't going nowhere. Ever. King of Swords. Yeah. He's operating on a whole different frequency. But the thing is, hold on now, Spirit is like, slow your roll, FFA, because I just got the World. The World is a form of completion. It's not ugly, it's not drastic, it's just where something has served its time. I also wonder though if I am seeing this in relation to Muskrat, because remember, part of this is at the current time, apparently from what we're learning, Navarro and Muskrat are like going at each other. Is this him pushing and Judgment? That's okay. Navarro is not going anywhere anytime soon. It's really interesting because while Muskrat is useful and has certainly played his role in FDT's success, Navarro is his boy. Like that's his homie. I use that term, right? Navarro is the homie. And to the extent that FDT could ever have any loyalty and a homie to anybody, right? Let me put that caveat in there. But that's what it is. There's Spirit is saying at the end of the day, Navarro is not going anywhere. And the fact that Muskrat has decided to, because he's salty, he's upset, he's having his complex, about whatever, people don't like me, whining, whatever. So, but at the end of the day, he's like, he will be there until the end. Navarro will be there until the end. Muskrat, on the other hand, he's out. Well, it was our plan all along that he would not be around. Okay. All right. That's what you want to say. But yeah, and the Five of Pentacles. Muskrat being absolutely pushed out into the cold. But in Pentacles, he's still got his government contracts. He's very upset because of he wants free trade, right? Losing all his money, all this money with Tesla, his businesses, his contracts with SpaceX, etc. Starlink. So this is no good for him, and that automatically puts him at odds with Navarro. But Navarro's not going anywhere. That's a battle that he will not win. And finally, I want to take a look at Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio, Spirit, is he going to be a fall guy? Especially in regards to Russia, the Russia-Ukraine war. Marco Rubio, is he going to be a fall guy? Is Marco Rubio going to go down and take the blame for the lack of peace negotiations? King of Pentacles. So yeah, a lot of the responsibility is being put in his, has been placed in his lap. That and the Emperor placed in his lap by FDT. All right, so I think we've already, off the bat, we've got confirmation that that's what FDT is doing. Because remember, when this started, when he pledged on the campaign trail and then said, as soon as I walk in, that Ukraine-Russia war is over. All right. So now we got to put Rubio in the crosshairs. Knight of Swords already sending him to talk, Rubio to talk to Putin, to be front and center in the talks. Saudi Arabia is going to be involved in that as well. Some of that is what was going on this weekend at Mar-a-Lago, working those details out, the role that they will play. The Hangman. Rubio, part of why we are seeing him become the shell of himself, you all, is that he knows his script got flipped. The role that he was promised to play as Secretary of State is not what he's actually being told he has to do. And there's a surrender there. And that's why, thank you, Spirit. That's why I kept getting the energetic feel of zombie, because he's just in limbo. It's surrender, complete surrender to whatever this is. His presidential aspirations are over. He will never be a member of the Senate again. There is no place for him to go after this stint as Secretary of State. He's lost all credibility, all respect among his constituents and among other members of Congress who, remember, he confirmed him like that because they were like, okay, we know him. We know he's a known quantity. No, he wasn't. We have the Queen of Pentacles. Not sure. And the Six of Pentacles. I'm not sure who that is. It feels like it's somebody either on his staff, on Rubio's staff, or someone that he, and the Ten of Swords, it's somebody stressing him out though. I almost want to tell you, I feel like this is a little personal. This could even be in his home life and his someone close to him who's like completely, why have you done this to yourself? You know, what do you stand to even gain from any of this at this point? So, I do not see him. I don't see Rubio talking about the cabinet cracking and the revolving door. Rubio's going to last a little while longer. Let's go back to our timing deck. Spirit, how long will Rubio last as Secretary of State? Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. How long will he last as part of FDT's cabinet? How long will Marco Rubio last as Secretary of State? How long will Marco Rubio last as Secretary of State? How long? How long will he be in there? September. Yeah, so I mean that goes with what we were getting, right? It doesn't look immediate. It doesn't look like he and FDT are getting ready to have some big blowout. He is trying to do. He has the skills to do what he's being asked to do, to negotiate, to go to other countries, to go to Russia or Ukraine or wherever he's called to go. He has the skills to do that. And that alone is sort of keeping him, because FDT doesn't have a lot of other choices of someone who could step into that position and know at least something about how to do the job, i.e. Hegseth, right? We see how that's working out, right? And the embarrassment that that's been causing. So around September is what Spirit is saying, you all. Sometime around September, something will have happened. And we have the Two of Wands moving forward. So that could be around that time is when maybe even he says, it's time for me to look forward. It's time for me to figure out what my next moves are. And those next moves are not going to be pretty. I mean, he boxed himself in. He became so aligned with this that his career, his reputation. All right. And finally, will all of this, once that cabinet starts to crack, you all, that's when, and these tariffs, the blowback, the continued blowback from the markets and the tariffs, will the GOP members of Congress, will their numbers start to grow in dissent? Will they start to take back their power? Will they fight to take back their power? Will they dissent? The Hangman, dang, bunch of punks for entertainment purposes only. Right? Surrender again. And you saw me shuffle. Surrender. I've never seen, I mean, it just, and but the High Priestess comes behind it in secret. So the appearance of surrender, but in secret, dissent and revolt, which we already know that's been happening. We're getting word on the street that they're, behind closed doors, they're all just like, what in the entire hell? Like, no. But then there's that fear factor, the cult factor. But bottom line, you all, is until it becomes so clear, and there's the devil, attachment. And notice all three major arcana. I was talking about the power of the major arcana earlier. Pay attention when Spirit uses a lot of major arcana. There's a powerful message coming through. So the devil is an attachment. It's the attachment to power. It's the still fear of being primary. Remember, they were threatened with that. They were threatened perhaps even some personal information. You do this and we're going to let your wives know about the supposed, assistance that you've had, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot that they had, that they've used to push the GOP and keep them in line and make them bend the knee. And the devil looks like that attachment to it, that they've literally, there's a part of them that has become so fearful. Spirit's giving me the comparison, and it doesn't feel good, but it feels true. There's a comparison between the fear, the legitimate fear that we, the American people, feel about Social Security, about the markets, about 401ks, about jobs, about food and housing costs and everything else. That fear is legitimate, right? They feel, these GOP cultists feel a legitimate fear. It is not just obeisance and, okay, let's all just rub elbows and go along to get along. It is a genuine, palpable fear that they are feeling. Nothing to feel sorry about, right? Sorry, not sorry. But I just wanted to share that with you because I got it. Like, it's real. It's real for them. And so for them to get over that hurdle to finally, like, what, do you do it because of principle, on principle? Do you do it on values? Do you do it because you really do want to uphold the Constitution? Like that kind of dark night of the soul that they got to go through in order to finally, get their kahunas together and do what they need to do. All right, you all. Have a great Sunday. Take care out there. Be really careful. And I will talk to you sometime early in the week. Be good. Chin up. Shoulders back. And breathe. Man, do we got this, right? It's a heck of a time trying to get through it. But we got this. And just keep, save some photos from those protests yesterday. That's what I did. I saved some just to kind of, visually and psychically and psychologically and emotionally continue to feed my energy and keep my energy high. So I'm offering that to you. That might help you all as well, okay? I'll talk to you real soon. Bye.